Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me. I'm back after a while. So I'm here to share some updates on the civil conflict in Ethiopia. So December the 3rd, 2021. Thank you again. So a lot of up and down on this conflict. It's a very dramatic change in this past week. I was following it, but I didn't have time to share with you. Uh, so it's a big setback for now on the federalist uh, forces who are planning and sit the Prosperity Party, especially TDF withdrawal from major cities like Kombolcha, Dase, and other cities. It's a dramatic event I witnessed in these past days. That's unexpected. So I don't know. Maybe TDF did this major decision to avoid danger or to have a different military strategic planning going forward. I don't know, but it's a very tough situation, especially after the cities liberated and celebrated with the people, the residents of the area. So this such situation could put residents who celebrated the arrival of TDF, OLA, and Prosperity Party and Amara Militia, Fano could take revenge against those people. So it's very tragic, very dangerous move done by TDF. We, as I said, we don't know why they did that, but there's a big setup, a big setback, leaving big cities like Kombolcha, Desi, Shuarobit, and others. So it's unbelievable. We didn't expect moving backward. We expected moving forward, like Debre Sina, Debre Brahan, and moving, rushing to the capital city, Addis Ababa, and unseat these criminals, these Prosperity Party officials. So that's a very sad situation. So I don't know what's happening in Kamise and Bati, usually controlled by OLA and the TDF. So I have no idea what's happening in that area at this time. But it's a very dangerous move. It's a very tough decision, conducted by TDF leadership. So uh, that's the update for the situation. It's very sad, and then the no more, the Minilik Brigade, the Prosperity Party are in celebration mood. They are out of control, really. They are very out of control. They're just claiming big victory, celebrating, dancing, gunshots. They're doing all kind of stuff. I hope the residents are safe. I hope. I just I don't want these people to suffer after celebrating the welcoming for TDF. So the other thing is the tragedy happened in East Shore, Karayu area. It's a massacre. It's out of control. Killing all these abagadas, Karayu leaders, just after calling them for a meeting, kill all of them, really, and put them in a massive grave, in a mass grave. It's very sad, very genocidal, very tough massacre. It happened on Oromos by Prosperity Party, by Prosperity Security Forces. Very bad, very dangerous, very dangerous. And you know, the government is claiming yeah, otherwise, like claiming, blaming Onak Shane for this attack. But the eyewitness indicated that this criminal act uh, was conducted by Prosperity Party affiliated security forces after they calling them the meeting and demanded they join the Menelik Brigade or the ongoing war on the side of the government. And these elders refuse. They say they don't want to join the Menelik Brigade. They don't want to, participate in such kind of war. So because of this refusal, the government take a revenge, killing many, many, it's like a massive assassination, very massive, criminal, genocidal killing, genocidal killing. And what's gonna happen to Prosperity Party at this time? They are doing the same killing they did. The killing of Hachalu, the killing of Abdul Jabbar Hussein, the killing of Simman, Engineer Simman, military leaders. No accountability, so they don't care of anything. They don't care about the international community. They don't care about the concerns of United States. They don't care about the concerns of European Union. They don't care. They just do whatever they think. They, they don't care about anything. So that's a criminal conduct happening. Is a genocidal, and the global community should, recognize this, massive, massive criminal act of the government of Ethiopia. It should be recorded in history book, and it should be recorded for future reference. The crime committed on Karayu Oromos, Karayu leaders, Bagadas in that area. So they should be accounted for one day in the future. So Addis Standard has a news about that one too, but it's a claim government make, blaming Onek Shani, and so like a conflict zone. But no, this is a purposely done a revenge against Karayu leaders for refusing to participate the Minilik military campaign in Ethiopia. The other thing is OLA enjoying, international media these days. France 24 is, reporting about OLA's approaching the capital city, Addis Ababa. And last time BBC was reporting on the OLA activities. It's good. It's encouraging, but they should also be warning. There should be also a warning for them because the government listen to this media and might use drones or airstrikes against them because they don't have defensive tools, defensive military hardware against drones, because the Ethiopian government is getting drones from United Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates is still supporting Abiy Ahmed in humanitarian side, funding the government and also providing drones. Also, China is also participating in this civil war. I have a video on that one too. So, oil, Publicity is very good, but publicity should be done in a very, very serious manner with protection, possible protection for those, uh, uh, you know, fighters. You know, is we want to hear in international media like France 24, BBC, or Agence France Presse, or whatever it is. Good, but after reporting, you have to be prepared to protect your soldiers from Ethiopian army drones and airstrikes. So very careful. You need to be careful. There is, uh, positive side and the negative side on these international medias coming to you, coming to your training location, and videotaping and reporting uh, these your activities. So it's a double edge. One edge is positive, the other edge is very negative. You could be attacked by drones and airstrikes. So be careful on this publicity. Uh, so say after I said that, let's read at this standard what the Oromia government, the Oromia is not a federal, the Oromia government claiming about the attacks on Karayu leaders. Members of Karayu Gada leadership killed, several others missing, and conflicting narratives in East Shoa zone. The Oromia regional government today announced the killing of civilians, including the Karayu Abagada, Kadir Hawas Boru in East Shoa zone. While Addis Standard received reports of killings and abduction of community members, which point to be the involvement of government forces, the Oromia regional government blamed the attack on the Oromo Liberation Army (OLA) in a statement issued this afternoon. That's the same thing they did when they killed Hachalu Hundessa. They claim they blame Onek Shane and TDF, but the reality is further than that. The Oromo Liberation Army, on its part, yesterday issued a statement attributing the attack to the government forces. So this is one of the guys assassinated by Ethiopian government today. This is the Karayu leader. Abarra, name changed for security reasons, recounted the events before the attack beginning from Wednesday, December 1st, where a prayer ceremony, Wak Kada, was being held at the seat of the area Gada leadership. According to Abarra, government security forces comprising Oromo Special Forces, regional police, and the militia arrived at the ceremony attended by a lot of people. He noted that the attendees of the ceremony were unarmed while attended the sacred ceremony. None of them suspected anything, as it is normal for the Warada administration to convene with Abba Gadas regarding issues of security and administrative matters. Our area had not seen any security issues recently, so none of them were alarmed when they were suddenly surrounded by government security forces, Abarra said. Abarra also recalled an incident in Haro Karsa, another Kabale in the Warada, which he admitted to not having the details of putting his speculation about the possible security issue. He said, our Kabale borders Boset Warada and is far from Haro Karsa, so we only heard of a security issue and the development of security forces a few days ago. Abarra recounted, after their arrival, the government forces abducted the men, including Abba Gadas, Abba Boku, prominent community members, and young men from the prayer ceremony, he added, putting the number at a total of 41 individuals. He counted. They forced them to hand over their weapons and the traditional armament, then drove them to a remote area called Anole. They beat them while they begged to be told what they did wrong. According to him, two people managed to escape and reach the community after midnight and informed them of the condition of the people who were taken by security forces. On Thursday, people went out to search for them, including in police station. Then finally recovered the bodies of 14 of them by midday, he said, adding, we don't know the whereabouts of the remaining people. Another resident of the Warada, Bakala, name changed for security reasons, told Addis Standard the government force prohibits the community from collecting the remains, which, according to him, were eaten by animals when discovered. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Abarra, who spoke to Addis Standard while attending the funerals of the 14 people, described the atmosphere. The people are in absolute shock and terror. The government force continue to beat and harass the community in several areas of the Warada. Commenting on the statement issued by the Oromia regional government, Abarra asks, if Shane is responsible, why didn't the government help us find them Wednesday through Thursday? He spoke of a recent pro-government rally attended by the Warada's community, including the deceased, and asked, why aren't they were searching for the remaining people with us? Why don't they hold the perpetrators accountable? He also expressed his disappointment in the Oromia Abagada Council. These Abagadas are not of the Karayu only. They belong to Oromia. We don't understand the silence, why our community is suffering from drought, border clashes, and now this. The head of the Oromia Region Communication Bureau, Hailu Adunya, told Addis Standard that the attackers were retribution measures taken by Shani, a term used by government officials to refer to OLA. When asked about why the government withheld the information of the abduction until 2 days later, Hailu said, it is not appropriate to divulge operations being undertaken by the government forces as it might reach the enemy. Hailu declined to comment on the number of casualties in the attack as well as abducted individuals. It is an ongoing operation and the police will soon make the information public. See, that is the strategy to cover it up. So that's the reality, and the truth is the two individuals, Abarra and Bakala, the name changed for security reasons. This is the truth. This is the truth. But what can we do? Do we have a power to do anything? Anybody can do anything for on prosperity party. At this time, no. For future, we don't know. They will be accountable one day. But at this time, they can do whatever they want to do without any accountability. Any accountability. Just they practiced in a long time. Like one time, Abiy Ahmed sent his security or undercover operatives into Abagada residence at the time in the middle of the night and broke into his house, attempted to kill him, but played karate on him and broke his house and left. So these people practice such, brutal attack against elders, against abagadas, against Oromo mothers, Oromo teenagers, and the same thing happened against the Tigrans. Tigrans. So these people are out of control, and I don't know what kind of Ethiopia they want to build in such kind of manner and without any accountability. Uh, so this is the situation. So that is the reality. Massacre happened in Karayu in Ethiopia on senior Oromo leaders, and nobody is held accountable at this time. United States and Kenya hold a dialogue on cyber issues. The United States and Kenya held the first US-Kenya cyber dialogue convened under the US-Kenya bilateral strategic dialogue on December 1. The Department of State acting coordinator for cyber issues, Michael Markov, led the US delegation, which also included participants from the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, National Institute of Standards and Technology, and other agencies. The Kenyan delegation was led by Dennis N. Mutiso, chairman of the National Computer and Cyber Crimes Coordination Committee, and included participation from the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of ICT Authority, Communication Authority, and the Central Bank of Kenya, among others. The virtual dialogue covered issues of mutual concern, such as addressing cybercrime, enhancing cybersecurity and resilience, supporting a stable cyberspace, and increasing cooperation on cybersecurity incident handling. The United States appreciates its strong strategic partnership with Kenya, dedicated to advancing peace and prosperity in Africa and the Western Indian Ocean region. Credit U.S. State Department. Iran nuclear talks breaks. Europe, U.S. dismayed by Iranian stance. Vienna. Indirect US-Iranian talks on saving the 2015 Iran nuclear deal broke off until next week as European officials voiced dismay on Friday at sweeping demand by Iran's new hardline government. The 17th round of talks in Vienna, in the first with delegates sent by Iran's anti-Western President Ibrahim Raisi on how to resuscitate the agreement under which Iran limited its nuclear program in return for relief from economic sanctions. Raisi's election in June caused a 5-month hiatus in the talks, heightening suspicion among US and European officials that Iran is playing for time while advancing its nuclear program. Iran right now does not seem to be serious about doing what is necessary to return to compliance, which is why we ended this round of talks in Vienna. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told the Reuters next conference. If the path to return to compliance with the agreement turns out to be dead end, we will pursue other options, he added without elaborating. Diplomats said the Iranian delegation had proposed sweeping change to a text that was painstaking negotiated in previous rounds and that European officials had said was 70 to 80% finished. Over 5 months ago, Iran interrupted negotiations. Since then, Iran has fast-forwarded its nuclear program. This week, it has backtracked on diplomatic progress made senior official from France, Britain, and Germany said in a statement, adding that Iran was demanding major change to the text. The three European powers expressed disappointment and concern at Iran's demands, some of which they said were incompatible with the deal's term or went beyond them. The 2015 agreement imposed strict limits on Iran's uranium enrichment activities, extending the time it would need to produce enough fissile material for a nuclear bomb, if it is choose to at least a year from around 2 to 3 months. Most experts say that period is now shorter than before the deal. Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons, saying it only wants to master nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. In exchange for the nuclear restriction, the 2015 deal struck by Iran and the six major powers, Britain, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the United States, lifting many US, European Union, and the UN sanctions on the Islamic Republic. After more than 2 years of Iranian adherence to the core curve, however, then President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the deal in 2018, calling it too soft on Tehran, and reimposed painful U.S. economic sanctions on Tehran. Tehran retaliated from 2019 by reaching many of the deal's limits on enrichment and other restrictions, and advancing well beyond them, with the deal's nuclear benefits now badly eroded. Some Western officials say there is little time left before the foundation of the deal is damaged beyond repair. French President Emmanuel Macron said he thought it likely the current round of talks will not succeed and appeared to look beyond them, hinting at involving more nations, such as Gulf Arab states, in a wider discussion if the Vienna talks fail. So that is credit for Reuters. So that's the situation on the Iranian nuclear deal. So Iran come up with some additional demand. Now it fails, so we'll follow it if any breakthrough next week. So that's enough on the reading part, and let's share some videos, UN briefing, and a couple of other videos, and finish today's presentation. Apologies. There we go. The first one is China's involvement in Ethiopian civil war. Okay, let's see.
The regime is waging a war on its ethnic minority. Who am I talking about? I'll give you two options, China and Ethiopia. Both would be the right answer. Ethiopia has been at war for 10 months. There is political instability. There are ethnic divisions. It was just a matter of time before China swooped in, and that's exactly what they have done. On Wednesday, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Ethiopia. He met the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. Why not the Prime Minister? Because Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was busy. He's apparently on the front line, leading the troops himself. Must be a first for a Nobel Peace Laureate. Anyway, what was Wang Yi doing in Ethiopia? Making the most of a hopeless situation. That's what China does. Ethiopia was a beacon of stability in the Horn of Africa. The biggest economy, politically reliable, diplomatically savvy. It was also one of America's biggest partners in Africa. In 2008, the US was sending around $1 billion of aid to Ethiopia. But in the last decade, it slowed down. Donald Trump suspended all financial support. And now the civil war is making things worse. Joe Biden is threatening sanctions. He's also withdrawing all non-essential embassy staff. And this is a problem for Abiy Ahmed. He's been fighting a war for 10 months, and wars are expensive. In 2020, Ethiopia's military expenditure was $460 million. This year, more than $400 million already. The Americans are not interested in financing this war, so who will? Enter China. Beijing has always eyed Ethiopia as an outpost for its Belt and Road project. And this is the perfect opportunity. Foreign Minister Wang Yi turned on the charm offensive in Ethiopia. All the war crimes and massacres could wait. There was a country to colonize.
The comradeship of Ethiopia and China is growing, and China has the desire to further strengthen this relationship. We understand the situation in Ethiopia very well. Ethiopia has the history, acumen, and capacity to solve this problem. We also want the problem to be solved there this way.
And Wang Yi did not stop there. He gave a crash course on Chinese foreign policy. Listen to this. China adheres to the principle of non-interference in internal affairs. We do not meddle in the internal affairs of Ethiopia, and we also oppose any external forces interference in the internal affairs of Ethiopia. We'll talk about double standards. Last we checked, Wang Yi is not an Ethiopian citizen. He is the foreign minister of China, another country. He is visiting Ethiopia. He's siding with the government in a civil war, ignoring war crimes, and then talking about non-interference. The perks of being a Chinese diplomat. You can say one thing and do another, no questions asked. China's designs in Ethiopia were expected. It was their perfect project, a vacuum left by the Americans and a civil war. No way China was just going to stand by. But the worrying part is this. Ethiopia is falling for Beijing's lies. It is eagerly lapping up Chinese money. Let me show you some numbers. By 2018, China had invested $4 billion in Ethiopia. This is all direct investments. And then you have loans. From 2000 to 2019, Ethiopia borrowed $13.7 billion from Chinese lenders. Bilateral trade is around $5.4 billion. All of this money is tied up in Ethiopia. For example, the Eastern Industrial Zone outside Addis Ababa. It is built and occupied by Chinese companies. Another example is the Addis-Djibouti railway line. Chinese companies were contracted to renovate this route. These projects are a major victory for the Chinese. One, they draw Ethiopia away from the West. And two, they gain a powerful partner in Africa, the continent's 7th largest economy and the strategic linchpin of East Africa. For the United States, it is yet another diplomatic failure, another partner swooped away by the Chinese. It did not start with the Civil War, by the way. It started in the last 2 decades. US presidents have systematically ignored Africa. Their strategy was to throw money at the continent. But who did this money reach? Did the rulers bother to distribute it? Nobody checked. While Washington was ignoring Africa, Beijing was building an empire, and Ethiopia could be its crown jewel. WION is now available in your country. Download the app
So
now
that's
and
the
get all the
China
news on the move.
involvement in Ethiopia's civil war.
By advertising on YouTube, I catch the eye of my ideal customers at the right time. I can
President Biden had been due to outline a winter plan for dealing with COVID before the discovery of the Omicron variant. But the president appeared hopeful that
There's a new challenge we are facing now, a new variant.
There's some evidence in one poll, I won't mention it because I'm not positive of the number, I was told this as I was leaving the White House, that there is an expectation that 30% of the non-vaxxers under no circumstances would I get a vaccination because of the new variant are now saying I'm going to get a vaccination.
Biden is vowing an approach based on what he calls science and speed and not chaos and confusion, the underlying principle of his winter plan to make resources available to prevent another lockdown.
It doesn't include shutdowns or lockdowns, but widespread vaccinations and boosters and testing and a lot more.
In order to ensure the 100 million eligible Americans who have yet to get a booster shot do so, they will be contacted and availability ensured. Hundreds of family vaccination clinics will be opened where all eligible age groups can be vaccinated at the same time, and mobile vaccination clinics will be sent to underserved areas. To prevent school closures, the Centers for Disease Control will release their findings on whether it's possible to test all students on site instead of sending them home after a COVID case is reported. Home testing kits will be covered by health insurance or provided free for those without insurance. The number of surge response teams, medical staff who can be deployed into areas where medical resources are being strained by the virus, will be increased. Biden is pledging to speed up delivery of the vaccines it has promised to the developing world, and travelers to the US will be required to be tested within a day before departure instead of 3 days. The mask mandate on public transportation will be extended into March. Some scientists and the World Health Organization have argued that the case for boosters for the entire adult population, and not just those particularly at risk, simply hasn't been made, nor is there evidence as yet that boosters increase protection against Omicron. The WHO argues that to prevent further variants, the priority should be to get vaccines to the developing world.
I call on all member states to choose to achieve our targets of vaccinating 40% of the population of every country by the end of this year and 70% by middle next year.
Something Biden didn't announce was requirements for vaccination for domestic air travel, a measure that some argue will further nudge the US's unvaccinated eligible adults to get the shot. But at a time of nationwide legal wrangling over vaccination mandates in the workplace, that would clearly be a hard sell for some. Shia Bertansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Okay, that's the last one.
I have a statement on the Gambia, where elections are about
I think
to
the
happen.
next
The
would be
Secretary
Ethiopia
General
after Gambia.
welcomes the completion of the work of the Gambian Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission and the submission of its final report on November 25th to the President of the Republic of the Gambia. The Secretary General commends the Commission for its tireless work and urges the government to ensure speedy follow-up action on the recommendations contained in the report. The United Nations remains a staunch partner in the transitional justice process in the Gambia and stands ready to continue supporting national efforts towards the full implementation of the Commission's recommendations to ensure justice, reparations for victims, and closure as necessary steps towards national reconciliation and social cohesion. As Gambians prepare to exercise their civic right to vote for their next president, the Secretary General calls on the electoral management body, candidates, political party leaders, and their followers through their conduct to ensure a peaceful environment conducive to a credible, inclusive, and transparent presidential election. An additional note on the Gambia, just to add that the head of our Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohamed Saleh Anadif, and Martha Ama Akia Pobi, the Assistant Secretary General for Africa here in New York, have begun a visit to the country.
Okay, it's coming up. The next one is a briefing update on the situation in Ethiopia.
And transparent presidential election. This election, as you know, is scheduled for tomorrow, as I mentioned. They will meet with the election observer missions deployed to the country, civil society organizations, and the UN country team. Moving to the other side of the continent, in Ethiopia, in the northern part of the country, our humanitarian colleagues have advised us that the conflict there continues to drive large-scale displacement, loss of livelihoods, and limited access to markets, food, and basic services. The latest numbers of people impacted are 3.7 million people in Amhara, more than 500,000 people in Afar, and 5.2 million people in Tigray. Of those, at least 400,000 are believed to be facing famine-like conditions. Our humanitarian partners have limited access to large segments of the population across these regions, though there's been some improvements.
Okay, there is a warning for shortage of space on my computer. It might shut down. If it does, so I'm just saying, see you next time. Warning sign is coming up.
Arrive in Mekele. Those were the first deliveries since October 18th. Fuel, however, has still not arrived in Tigray via the Afar route since the 2nd of August, with 8 tankers currently in Samara in Afar waiting for clearance to proceed. On the 24th of November, the UN's Humanitarian Air Service resumed twice-weekly flights between Addis and Mekele following their suspensions on the 22nd of October. As a result, we, along with our humanitarian partners, have been able to rotate staff in and out of Tigray and transfer limited